All right. Let's read, let's learn and read. We're on page 24, reading the Sword of Allah. It's been very good. A person in the comments section, he recommended this a while back. So, we bought it and we're reading it. Let's dig in. 24 towards the top. The preparations for the expedition now began in right earnest. While they were in progress, an unbeliever of doubtful character approached Abu Sufyan with a proposal. This man was Abu Amir of Medina. He had taken exception to the arrival of the Holy Prophet at Medina, and to the speed with which members of his own clan, the Aus, had begun to embrace Islam. Consequently, he had left Medina and sworn never to return as long as Muhammad remained in power. At Mecca he took to inciting the Quraysh against the Muslims. In the old days Abu Amir had been known as the monk, but the Holy Prophet had given him the nickname of Knave. Thus the Muslims knew this man as Abu Amir the Knave. That's funny. Alright. Ibn Hisham, Volume 2, page 67, I have 50 members of my clan with me, he said to Abu Sufyan. I have much influence with my clan, the Aus. I propose that before the battle begins, I be permitted to address the Aus among the Muslims, and I have no doubt they will all desert Muhammad and come over to my side. Abu Sufyan gladly accepted the arrangement. The Aus were one of the two major tribes of Medina and would comprise more than a third of the Muslim army. Parleys were begun with neighboring tribes, and strong contingents were received from the Kinana and the Saqif early in March 625. So long ago, right? 625. The assembly of the expedition began at Mecca. At this time, Abbas, uncle of the Prophet, wrote to him from Mecca to inform him that the preparations being made against him. Oh, they're letting him know, like, hey man, there's something going down. In the second week of March, the Quraysh set out from Mecca with an army of 3,000 men, of whom 700 were armored. They had 3,000 camels and 200 horses. With the army went 15 Quraysh women in litters, whose task it was to remind the Quraysh of the comrades who had fallen at Badr and to strengthen their spirits. I remember that in the sealed nectar. Among these women was... Oh, and somebody said they actually were just like whores. Among these women was Hind, who acted as their leader, and the role came naturally to her. Others were the wife of Ikramah, the wife of Amir bin Alas. Okay, so that's the wife. Others, the wife of Ikramah. Why don't they tell me the name of Ikramah's wife? And the sister of Khalid. Oh, he had a sister. One of the women, whom we shall hear of again later, was Amara bin al-Qama, and there were also some songstresses who carried tambourines and drums. Yeah, keep their spirits up. Just like there's drummer boys in like the American Revolutionary War time period. There's little drummer boys like... As the expedition moved towards Medina, one of the leaders of the Quraysh, Jubair bin Mutim, spoke to his slave, who was known as the Savage, Wahshi bin Harb. Whoa. The Savage. When your nickname is the Savage, you must be savage. If you kill Hamza, the uncle of Muhammad, in revenge for the killing of my uncle at Badr, I shall free you. The Savage liked the prospect. He was a huge, black, Abyssinian slave who always fought with the javelin from his native Africa. That's like in the... Is that the dude in the Message? Remember how that lady is like looking at him and stuff? And he's like with the spear. Is that the dude? He was an expert with this weapon and had never been known to miss. After traveling a little further, the Savage saw one of the litter-carrying camels move up beside him. From the litter, Hind looked out and spoke to the Savage. "O father of blackness," she addressed him, "heal and seek your reward." She promised him that if he would kill Hamza in revenge for killing her father, she would give him all the ornaments that she was wearing. Dang, what was she wearing? Oh, maybe like a lot of gold and stuff. The savage looked greedily at her ornaments, her necklace, her bracelets, the rings she wore on her fingers. They all looked very expensive, and his eyes glittered at the prospect of acquiring them. Ah, tricky, right? It's like, uh, who is it that makes you kiss their ring? Oh, I forget who does that. Does the Pope wear the ring anymore? Dang, I can't remember who in history they used to wear the rings and be like, kiss my hand. And they're like, okay, and people like, ugh. I think that's something interesting. The gems, what they do to people. That's probably a big reason why the monarchs of the past used to put so many jewels in their crowns, right? Like, the glamour gets you. You know what I mean? Dang. The Holy Prophet had been warned by Abbas of the Quraysh preparations before they left Mecca. While they were on their way, he continued to receive information of their progress from friendly tribes. That's good, right? The tribes are like, hey man, we like Muhammad, peace with him, we're gonna let him know what's up. On sorry. On March 20, the Quraysh arrived near Medina and camped a few miles away in a wooded area west of Mount Uhud. Mount Uhud. On this very day, the Prophet sent 2 scouts to observe the Quraysh, and these scouts returned to give their exact strength. You know what's so cool? Is that back in the day, a scout could go and literally really accurately estimate how many soldiers there were within a camp. Now, I'd probably lose count. If that was my job, I'd be over by the tents being like 1, 2, 3, 7, 12, 14. You know, I'd be terrible at that job. Oh man, that would suck. The Muslims had 2 horses, of which one was the Prophet's. They camped for the night near a small black hillock called Shikain, a little over a mile north of Medina. The following morning, before the march was resumed, the hypocrites, numbering 300 under the leadership of, I think, Abu Jahl, right? No, Abdullah bin Ubay. Dang it. I thought it was gonna... left the Prophet on the plea that fighting the Quraysh outside Medina had no prospect of success, and that they would not take part in the operation which under the view was doomed to failure. The hypocrites returned to Medina. The Prophet was now left with 700 men, and with this strength he marched from the camp. Wait a minute. Oh, never mind. The hypocrites returned to Medina. The Prophet was now left with 700 men, and with this strength he marched from the camp. The Prophet had not actually intended to fight outside Medina. It had been his wish that the Muslims should await the arrival of the Quraysh on their home ground and fight the battle in Medina. But most of the Muslims had insisted that they go out to meet the Quraysh, and so the Prophet, submitting to their demand, had marched out to give battle to the Quraysh outside Medina. Now that's quite interesting. So they came to an understanding, right? The men talked to their general and were like, hey, we have this plan. What do you think? And, he went with it. That's quite good. But although he was going out to meet his enemy in the open, he would nevertheless fight the battle on the ground of his own choice. He moved to the foot of Mount Uhud and deployed for battle. That's right? Uhud is a massive feature lying 4 miles north of Medina, the reference point in Medina being the Prophet's mosque, and rising to a height of about 1,000 feet above the level of the plain. The entire feature is 5 miles long. In the western part of Uhud, a large spur descends steeply to the ground, and to the right of this spur, as seen from the direction of Medina, a valley rises gently and goes up away as it narrows, at a defile about 1,000 yards from the foot of the spur. Well, that's interesting. It's cool how he's, given us the geographical explanation so that we can kind of get more into the zone of what's going on. Beyond this defile, it shrinks into nothingness as it meets the main wall of the ridge. At the mouth of this valley, at the foot of this spur, the Prophet placed his army. The valley rose behind him. Yeah, rose behind him, so he's at the bottom, okay. He organized the Muslims as a compact formation with a front of 1,000 yards. He placed his right wing at the foot of the spur and his left wing at the foot of a low hill, about 40 feet high and 500 feet long. Look at that. Called Einain. The Muslim right was safe, but their left could be turned from beyond Einain, so to meet this danger, the Prophet placed 50 archers on Einain. Oh yeah, I think I remember that, right? From which they could command the approaches along which the Quraysh could maneuver into the Muslim rear. Yeah, so like as they're coming up, they can get picked off. As they get picked off, they'll move their formation, go around. Yeah, I can see that. Sort of like a crowd control, manipulating the situation from far. These archers, under the command of Abdullah bin Jubair, were given instructions by the Prophet as follows: use your arrows against the enemy cavalry. Keep the cavalry off our backs. As long as you hold your position, our rear is safe. Aha, I see. So they're coming up to the rear. The archers firing down. They'll kind of scatter, kind of try to not get into range. And you can keep them at a certain ratio, a certain distance away from that. I see. We're given instruction by the Prophet as follows. That's right. On no account must you leave this position. I remember that, yes, right? If you see us winning, do not join us. If you see us losing, do not come to help us, right? Yeah. Hold that spot. The orders to this group of archers were very definite, since Enain was an important tactical feature and commanded the area immediately around it. It was imperative to ensure that it did not fall into the hands of the Quraysh. Fair point, right? You have to make sure your enemy doesn't get your territory, your grounds. Like Sun Tzu said, remember? In The Art of War we read?